Hi everyone, today I'm going to show you how to create a very simple web app using Flask, Python, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and to deploy your web app to Railway, which is an amazing platform where you can deploy your projects. You have both the possibility to deploy your web app and to create the database that you connect to your application. So we're going to do that together. We're going to include a MySQL database in this simple project so that you can understand how a dynamic web app is deployed on Railway. We will use PyCharm for this demo. I will publish another video where I will use Visual Studio, VS Code. It's slightly different, but the concept is the same. It's just the way you create a GitHub repo, which is different on VS Code. So we're going to dive in straight away into PyCharm. PyCharm is one of my favorite IDEs. It was the first IDE I used to code a project in Python. So that's why I decided to start with a tutorial from PyCharm to Railway through GitHub. So let's first create the basic components of our web app. As you can see, I've already created a brand new project called Railway Deploy. There is a Python interpreter connected to this Railway Deploy project. If you don't know how to initiate your first Python interpreter, you can look online. It's very, very simple. Once you have an interpreter connected to your PyCharm IDE, then you can very quickly add a new project using the same Python interpreter. First, we're going to add a file called main.py, which will be a Python file to our project. So main.py. This is where we will have the Python code for the Flask Web App. And I can already tell you that we need a bunch of other components for this specific demo. We will add a folder. So let's add a folder at the same level as this file called templates. And in this folder, we will have just one file for today, index.html. So we're going to put there index.html. Index.html. I could have picked HTML as the file type, but I'm just typing it myself so that there's no boilerplate from PyCharm inserted straight away in the HTML. We're going to generate those boilerplates with GitHub Copilot. So now we have empty files. There's absolutely nothing there. So we need to have a boilerplate, a starting point for our Flask web app. So let's go into this file and we can open, if you have this extension installed, GitHub Copilot. So you need a subscription to GitHub Copilot to use that. It's not expensive and it's really worth it. It will accelerate your workflow by orders of magnitude. So I strongly encourage you to install GitHub Copilot in PyCharm or in VS Code in Visual Studio. It's even more integrated into Visual Studio, but in PyCharm, you can access GitHub Copilot from the sidebar, and then you can start typing your request. So give me the boilerplate of a Flask web app, which will render index.html as the index page. So that will be the first page that we will create today. And it's writing the code. So we have the route for the index.html. For each of the pages in your app, you will have a different route like this one. And later we will also have a route for the form that we will create to record the emails of our users. But let's click on this button, insert code, block at cursor, like this. And so now we need to have something in index.html because we don't have anything at the moment in index.html. So let's open index.html, and we can also ask here our friend GitHub Copilot to give us the boilerplate, of a HTML file using, and we're going to use Tailwind CSS, which looks pretty good, nicely styled, with the form at the center of the page, where the user can give their email address to join a waiting list. As you can see, it's using the CDN to import Tailwind CSS. So now if I insert that there, I've got my code. So let's make this window a bit smaller. So you see all the code with the form there, opening of the form, closing of the form, the methods for the form. We will need some endpoint here because we don't have any endpoint at the moment. And we've got the email address field, and we've got the big button. So do you want to see this page opening? We can do that. So we can go to our main.py file, and I can already give you that there will be an error if I run it, but we can run it here next to current file to give it a try. And as you can see, it tells me there's no module named Flask because we need to install Flask in our web app so that it can work. So the way we do this is by opening a terminal. We just check that we are in the right directory, yes, where we deploy, and then we will do pip install Flask to install the Flask package. So it takes a few seconds, then it's ready. If you want to just clear your terminal, it's better you just type clear and it's cleared. So now, as you can see, you don't have any red underline under those elements. So Flask is properly imported. So now if I click on a current file, it will spin a server, a local server at 5000, and I can here click on this link, and as you can see, I've got my form. But if I type something here like code@mail.com, and if I try to join the waiting list, I get an error because I don't have any route to accept this registration. So we will add a route to the app. Let's do this. Let's open PyCharm again. Let's first have a look at, okay, it's submit email. Okay, so now I'm just going to go there and ask my friend Copilot. So create a route slash submit. Was it submit underscore? Was it submit? Yeah, no, it's submit hyphen. Submit hyphen email to register the submissions from our Frontend form. We say it's a post route, and it will give me the code. As you can see, we will need another element from Flask for that. So in the import of Flask, at the top of this file, you see I need request, which is not imported at the moment. So let's import request. It's part of Flask. And then we need here to just copy this bit because we already have the other route. That's ready. It returns email submitted successfully. Return instead a success message that can be interpreted by the front end to display a sweet alert 2 message. We'll show you what sweet alert 2 is in a moment. It's a way to show a nice pop-up for a confirmation. So we need to send back some JSON response. As you can see, it means that we need another element from Flask called JSONify. So we just do that, JSONify here. And then we have the route there. So here we have a success message. So on the other side now, if we go to the index.html, let's ask our friend GitHub Copilot to generate some JavaScript to display the confirmation message when this form has been properly submitted. So generate some GS code to handle the submission to submit email, our Flask route, and when the route returns a success message, display a nice pop-up using Sweet Alert 2. It will listen to the submit event from the form, and then as you can see here, that's swal fire, error, or success, depending on the outcome. And what we have to do, we can do it in two ways. We can either have a separate JavaScript file. Obviously, that's better when your project starts growing. Or we can, for this very simple demo, insert the JavaScript straight into the page. So that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to add here JavaScript code, and I will insert this code right there. So it's inserted there. I need to import Sweet Alert 2. So give me the code snippet to import Sweet Alert 2 via the CDN. Like this. So theoretically now we're ready to submit the form to the backend and get a success message. It won't record the data anywhere because we haven't connected any database yet. We're going to do that in the end of this session when we create a database on Railway. So let's first test that everything is running smoothly. So I can just rerun my main.py file, and let's test this again. code@mail.com just for the test. Email submitted successfully, but as you can see, there's an issue, I would say, in terms of user experience. The form flies away to the top of the screen when we submit this data. So we're going to fix this so that it stays in place. Let's go here and say, so we've got all the body, everything is there. All the div, yes, here. Let's just take this. This is flying away from the center when I submit my form. Please give me the code so that it stays in place when I hit submit. So as you can see, if you just ask in plain English GitHub Copilot to fix something, and if you explain it in a way which is structured enough for the AI to understand, it will give you the solution. The solution here is to make sure that the form stays fixed. So we're going to add some styling. It could also be in a separate file, but we're going to add this styling right here in the head section of our HTML file. So let's insert this, and we have to modify the form container. So just have a look here and see where it starts. So we start here, and we have to just select all of that and replace it with this. You don't have to save your files in PyCharm. In VS Code, you've got to save the files before you test, but not here. So let's just rerun this and open the page. So now, if I do this submission, as you can see, it stayed in place just behind it, and the email is submitted successfully. So if we look at the server log, we can see that we have a 200 result, which is a positive result for each submission in the server log. But if you look at the code for this route, you see that there's nothing at the moment for the submission of the email to the database. So we're going to do that in a moment. So the next part of our tutorial is to show you how to deploy this project to Railway via GitHub. So first commit it to GitHub and then deploy it to Railway. We will first need to initialize a GitHub repo. So if you look at the bottom of your PyCharm IDE, you've got this tab version control. So click on version control here. And you can create a Git repo. So let's create a Git repo. And we will just make sure that it's the right project. That's the right project. That's perfect. So next step, we will need to commit this repo to GitHub. I've got some explanation about GitHub. So the first thing I would suggest is to add gitignore, procfile, and also our requirements.txt file, because we will need those files to deploy to Railway. Let's add gitignore first. So what is gitignore? At the same level as main.py, so .gitignore. That's where you will list all the files that you don't want to deploy to Railway to commit to GitHub. The moment it's empty. So yes, we want to add it to Git because we want to deploy this file. But what do we want in this gitignore? At the moment, nothing special because we want to commit and deploy main.py and index.html. But I will already add a file called .env, where we will put our environment variables, including the SQL password that we will use in a moment for the connection to the database on Railway. We don't want to add it to Git. What we will do is we will add it to gitignore. So .env will be added to gitignore. So it won't be pushed to GitHub, and it won't be pushed to Railway. So .env, and in .env we will record in a moment our MySQL password. We'll see that in a moment. We also need a proc file. So what is a proc file? The proc file is the file where you enter the start command for your project. So let's do this. We want to deploy this one. It's in green. So by the way, we also want this to be deployed. So if we go to Git, we can say add this one. So as you can see, it becomes green. And this one, we can also go to Git and add this one. And it also becomes green. The red ones are the ones that are not pushed to GitHub and to Railway. So in procfile, what do we put in procfile? So in procfile, I can already tell you that we will need to trigger the start of this app, this command. So let's copy it, paste it here. So that's ready, procfile is ready. And now we need the requirements.txt file. That's the list of the Python packages that we will need to install on the server. There is a way to generate automatically this requirements.txt. At the moment, you could argue we just have one package, so that's easy, but let's pretend that we have multiple packages and that we need an easy way to generate the requirements.txt file. We will go to the terminal and first install something called pip-rex, like this, which is a package that enables you to generate the requirements.txt file. That's it. So you can clear again your terminal. It's indexing all the new stuff, as you can see at the bottom. So when you install new packages, just wait for the indexing to be completed to make sure that nothing breaks. So now we need to call piprex to try to generate our requirements.txt files. So let's enter piprex space dot and hit enter, and we've got an error. And I took some time to debug this error in various configurations, and the issue is that piprex tends to scan also the .venv library root folder right here, and we don't want that. We don't need that to generate our requirements.txt. So what we can do is just enter piprex space dot dash dash ignore dot venv to exclude this part of the code from the scanning. We're going to do that, and as you can see now it went smoothly. And if I click on requirements.txt, I have now two packages, because in the meantime I also added this one, which I don't use yet, but it was scanned, and as you can see it's already added to requirements.txt. We can add requirements.txt to Git by clicking, right-clicking on it and then going to Git and then add, and it becomes green. So now all the green files and also the templates folder will be pushed to GitHub and then later deployed to Railway. So we are ready at this stage. We will add other packages and some other code later on for the database, but we can already push this code to GitHub and deploy it to Railway. How do we do this? We go to the commit tab on the left-hand side of PyCharm. You click there and you see that you've got 5 files to commit. So you just click on them, select them all. You see all those unversioned files are the ones that we don't want to push. So we'll push those ones. As you can see, the .env is not part of the set because it's in red and it's in git ignore. So git ignore makes sure that we don't push it to GitHub. We will add our first commit message, just a random message. We can click on commit and push, but then you will see what happens. So commit and push, and as you can see, there is no remote location. So we need to define a remote location. We need to define some repo on GitHub to deploy this code. So we can define a remote. So for that to work, you need first to have your GitHub account connected to PyCharm. So just type into Perplexity or into Google or into ChatGPT how to connect PyCharm to GitHub. And once you are authenticated and your GitHub account is connected to PyCharm, you can add new destinations here. So now I will create a new repo on GitHub. Let's go to GitHub. I have already opened the tab to create a new repository. So we will create here something called Railway deploy. It's available. We make it private and we create the repo. It will give us a URL, which is here. You just copy the URL, come back to PyCharm, paste it, click on OK, and it will add this destination. And now you've got all those files which are ready to be pushed to GitHub. So let's push them. It's done. The files have been pushed. So now if I come back to GitHub and if I refresh my repo, I can see that my files are properly deployed to GitHub. So yeah, that's ready. The next step is to go to Railway. So we're going to do that. If you are in Railway, you signed up, you can create a new project. So you click on New Project in the UI, and then you choose Deploy from GitHub Repo. As you can see, I've got already a few projects deployed, but I need to add to my configuration this new one. So I go to Configure GitHub App. It will open this pop-up, and I can select my repo, and I can say Railway deploy. So now it will be available in the list there. So I can just say, okay, we want to deploy this project, and it will deploy it to Railway. So it will start the deployment. I'm back slightly before the end of the process. So it went from initializing, building, to deploying. As you can see, the text here is the text of our first commit from PyCharm to GitHub. So it can take a while. It depends on the availability at Railway's site. It can take anything from, let's say, 35 seconds for the deployment phase to 2-3 minutes. But now it's been deployed, and as you can see, we get a URL. We can test to see whether this URL will already open the web app or not. As you can see, there's nothing at the moment there, and there's probably some kind of mistake somewhere. So let's have a look there at the deploy log. We can also have a look at the observability here. Unicorn command not found. Yes, why? Why? Because I forgot to add unicorn to my requirements.txt. So that was a good way to show you how not to forget some of the elements in your requirements.txt. So if I come back to my Notion file, so I told you that you need a proc file with the unicorn main app. You also need the requirements.txt. We have created that. We will get later to MySQLDB, but we also need to make sure that we have this bit in the requirements.txt. Otherwise, we don't have the package to start our project. So I'm going to grab this one, and you know what? Because I know that we will also need in a moment a MySQL connector, I'm going to grab both of those. And I'm back into my requirements.txt file in my PyCharm project, and I will add those 2 lines there, like this. I don't need to save the file, but what I need to do is go back to commit, and as you can see, I've got a file which changed, and I will just put this as the message, so it's clear for me. Commit and push. Requirements will be pushed. Let's go push it. We've got this new commit here. So as you can see now, we've got the right file. And if I come back to Railway, you see that it's building. So it's building the second one. And as you can see, the first one crashed, and I made it crash on purpose to show you that there was something missing in requirements.txt. Now it's deploying the new version. And in a moment, we will be able to test this new version on the same URL. The new deployment has been completed. We have the same URL. By the way, you will be able to connect your own domain to your app. So if you go to settings, and if you scroll down, you can add a custom domain. You follow the instructions to add your custom domain, and it will resolve on your own domain, not on this URL by Railway. But in staging mode, it's nice to keep it like this on Railway. So if I come back to my deployment and I click on this link, now I've got my app which has been deployed. And if I test it the way we did it locally, just with a random email, and I click on join waiting list, as you can see, my email has been submitted successfully. Nothing is moving there. So if I go to observability, that's where you see what's happening on the servers. You see all the errors that we had earlier. And now we see that we've properly started the server. So now it's working, and we are ready for the next phase, the last phase of the demo today, because we want to register the data in a dedicated database. And that's the beauty of a Railway, is that in the same project, so if I go there and I click new, I can add a database, and we will add a MySQL database. It will spin up MySQL, as you can see under my face there, spinning up MySQL. So the database is active, as you can see. At the moment, it's ready, still deploying there. But I can already see it's ready. The credentials, we will need some of those. I will delete this database after the demo. So even if you copy paste the credentials that you will see on the screen, you won't be able to access this database. It will be fully deleted after the demo. But it's easier for me to show you those credentials in clear instead of just hiding them on the screen. That's much easier. I have already prepared some code, which is some boilerplate code that we can use to connect to a MySQL database on Railway. So some examples. What we're going to do is copy this code, and I will explain this code in a moment, into our PyCharm project, because we are working in PyCharm, and then we commit to GitHub, and then it's deployed to Railway. So let's go to main.py. And we will add, just after declaring the app here, we will add all the code that we need to connect to our database on Railway. So we have a MySQL password, which we find in the .env file. So I can just, just pick this guy here and go to .env. MySQL password equals, and here we need to grab the MySQL password on Railway. So let's go to Railway, and we have here MySQL password. So I can just copy it, I can reveal it, or I can just copy it. We will be able to access the database on Railway from the local code also. So we can do that for testing purposes. It's always a bit slower, longer to process that than from Railway to Railway when it's deployed on the server, but you can connect to your Railway database from the local code. That's what we're going to do in a moment to show you that it's working. So we need the MySQL password there. So it will be accessed this way. As you can see, we've got OS underlined, so there's some problem there. First of all, we need to import OS. So it's suggested by GitHub Copilot. We also need indeed to import the MySQL connector. And we need we need to import G from Flask, but we can put it there. That's to have our connection. By the way, let's come back here because I've prepared everything. I've prepared all the imports that we need here, as you can see. And we need also the load.env to load the variables from our .env file. As you can see, MySQL underline and .env underline, because they are not yet installed on the system here in the environment. So we can first of all install MySQL connector. It's always nice to check which package you have to install exactly, because sometimes the name of the package is not exactly the name of the import. This is, for instance, what you need to do to install MySQL connector. So it's installing everything, and when it will be installed, and you clear it, as you can see, the red underline disappears. Now we need to adapt some of the elements in the code, in the boilerplate that are inserted, because the URL might not be the same for each database on Railway, so you need to adapt this bit after the H, which is the same as this bit. And you need to adapt the port, and sometimes the database name, the user always stays the same root. So let's go back to Railway and see what we have here. So for the port, it's 50,259. So 50,259. And as you can see, we also have the port there, 50,259. Then we need to change this URL. Probably it's not the same. Sometimes it is, but probably it's not the same. So yeah, that's this one, roundhouse. Let's move my face so that I can copy it. It's after the H. So the H, which is for host, stays, but then you have to put this there and here between this. I think we're good. Let's just check that here it's Railway, so there's no change for that. So we are ready. We will need also to declare the MySQL password in the variables of the project of the web app itself. So let's copy the value and let's go here, and in the variables we can add a variable, or we can also go to the row editor if we want and just copy paste the content of the .env file that we have here. At the moment the content is pretty easy, there's not much there, so let's go there and we can update the variable. And as you can see, it's asking you to deploy it, so it will just deploy the fact that we have added a variable there. And what is the next step? The next step is that we need to create some table in the MySQL database. So we will create a table called users or emails, because it's just to register emails. And we will add a column, because the ID is automatically added to each table. It's auto-incremented one by one when you add a record to a table. So you can't just remove the ID, but you can add another one like email, and you will choose for the format text, and then you create the database. Or you could just, maybe just call it users. Be easier for the table. That's it. So now we have here a table called users with the ID auto-incremented and email, and we will add the emails from the form in a moment. So that's ready. So let's come back to PyCharm. You remember that we add here the fact that we had to add this email to a database. So now here, I would just select everything so that GitHub Copilot gets the context of how we connect to our database. And we go to GitHub Copilot and we say, in the submit email route, add the logic to record the email in the table users of our database in the email column. Look at the way we connect to the DB. We're using MySQL just to make sure that it's using the right code. So it will read the context, and then in the route where we add the email, it will give us the code that we miss to register this email into the database. So we've got this there, and it just focused on the route, so that's perfect. So let's just select all of the route, and we will replace it with the code that was suggested by GitHub Copilot, like this. So let's read the code to see what happens here. So it takes the email from the form, then it connects to the DB. It will create a cursor to connect to the DB, then it will execute this SQL command, so insert into the user's email column values of parameter email, and then it will commit it, and then if there is an error, it will tell us there is an error. It will close the cursor, and then it will return to the client the success message. So theoretically, we can do this locally. So let's try and see if it works. So we will run the main.py file. As you can see, we have an error here, my fault. I was too fast. I thought that to install .env, I had just to do pip install .env, but actually, the way you do it is you pip install python.env. So that's the way you do it. And now, as you can see, the red underline vanished, and it's ready. So we are ready to run the main.py file. Let's open it again. That's the same as we had before. And we're going to record code at mail.com. Let's do this. Success, email submitted successfully. It was a bit slower because what it did, it connected to the database remotely on Railway, and we will see, theoretically again, it registered the email in the database. So let's go to the database, let's open the database, and as you can see, we've got code at mail.com properly registered. And if we look at here the logs from the server, you can see it submitted the email and it returned a 200 success message to the client. So now we are ready to basically deploy the whole thing to Railway. First, we need to commit it to GitHub. So let's go to commit. We see that in the files which changed, we have main.py, because that's basically there that we changed some stuff. We added all the code to connect to Railway, and we also added this code to the submit email route to record the emails. So we will just call this commit database logic, like this. Commit and push. Yes, let's confirm. So one file committed, database logic. So now if I come back to Railway and I go to architecture, here you see I've got initializing, and we'll be back when it will be deployed. We are ready. The new version is being deployed. We can just refresh it to make sure that it's the new one, and then we will record a new email, test at mail.com, or even deployment, so that we can connect it to what we do. Join waiting list, email submitted successfully. And if I go there in the MySQL database, you can see that I have now a new record for a new entry for deployment at mail.com. So if I do it again, so let's refresh the page. If I do it again, new test at mail.com, I can join the waiting list. Boom, I go there. I've got a third entry, new test at mail.com. So that's ready, that's working. Again, if you want to have a look at what's happening behind the scenes, you go to observability. That's where you will see the printouts from your Python code. If you have printouts to see how the code is making progress. For instance, if I come back here in my main.py, and let's say I want to confirm here my printout that it has been submitted successfully. So to return this to the observability view, I can do that. So I've got one change. I will just commit that, and we call it printout, and I will show you in a moment how it's working. We are ready. A new deployment completed. We can just click there, and I would suggest to always wait, let's say, for 20-30 seconds before you try the new deployment. It has to be fully ready on Railway to be tested, but we can just, refresh it. As you can see now, it's in between two things. There's an error now. Okay, now it's fine. So usually you will have for 1 or 2 seconds an error between two deployments, and then you can test it. So now it's a new version. New version at mail.com. Let's join the waiting list. Boom. Email submitted successfully. Fine. So if I go to the observability tab now, you see I've got my printout here, email submitted successfully. It's always nice to have some printouts, not too many, but some, to just follow what's happening on your server if you want to debug in a live application later and see where there was a mistake. It's easier if you have some interstitial printouts. So that's all for today. Let's recap what we did. We created a test web app on PyCharm called Railway Deploy. We have a main.py file with some imports for MySQL for also the connection to the local .env file where we have the MySQL password. So remember it's there and it will disappear after this demo. Then you have all the logic to connect to the database on Railway. It's specific to Railway here, so those parts. And then you've got the route to connect to the home page, so to index.html, which is in the templates folder. And you've got one route to take care of the email submissions, which registers those emails into the database, into the users table right here, and returns a successful message to the client. And we can have a look here on the code in index.html where we fetch this route, and then when we have a successful message, we just here confirm that the email has been registered, submitted. So that's it. And we show the success message, which is returned from the route here under message. So that's what we did. I also showed you how to generate with pip rex your requirements.txt file. Then we've got this proc file with this instruction, which starts the app which we find in the main.py file. So that's what it means here. So proc file, requirements.txt, and also git ignore, where we have the .env file, which we don't want to commit for security reasons to GitHub. So I showed you how to create your first GitHub repo, and we have here the structure of this GitHub repo here, with the git ignore, the proc file, the main.py, requirements.txt, and index.html, which is in the templates folder. I will add to this repo Railway Deploy in the README section what I showed you on Notion. It gives you some instruction. It gives you also the boilerplate code for the connection to MySQL. So you've got everything there. I will leave the link to the public repo on GitHub now, where you will find everything. You can just, if you want, clone this GitHub repo to start your first project. And let me maybe finish by giving you again the structure of a Flask Web App. So you've got your app project, your main.py file right here. You've got your requirements.txt, proc file, git ignore, .env for your local environment variables. Then we had here index.html. You could have other HTML files if you have other pages. You could also have under static your styles and your script. But as you saw, we used CSS inserted directly in the head section of the HTML, and JavaScript inserted straight away also in the HTML before the end of the body tag. For a small little project like this, it's fine, but otherwise you've got to put your files in static under, for instance, styles.css and script.js. And let's imagine, just to finish it, to wrap it up, that you wanted to structure your project like that to make it clean. So let's come back here. You see that I've got my style here for just my form container. You remember to keep it fixed on the page. So instead of having it in the head section, I can put it under static in a styles.css file. We're going to do that. So let's create a new folder here, new folder directory called static. And here under static, we're going to create two files, styles.css, and then another one called script.js. .js for the JavaScript. We will add it, and this one add it manually here. So they are green, they will be ready to be deployed there. Let's add in styles.css what we have here. So we cut it, we remove those style tags, we don't need them anymore. So let's put them there in styles.css. And now we will ask, and you will see how it is, and we will ask our friend here to say, okay, so insert the link to styles.css in the static folder in the way it should be done in a Flask Web App. Here we go, perfect, that's fine. So we'll just put it there and insert it. As you can see, so it's the style sheet, and it is in static, the file name being style.css. And now we're going to do the same for this script here, for the JavaScript. So let's remove those tags. So that way it's cleaner. We have a cleaner HTML file. So let's go in script.js like this. So everything is there, perfect. And now we go here and we say, give me the code to link to script.js in the static folder as it should be done in a Flask Web App. There we go. So it will give us also the link to the script.js in the static folder. So now it's ready. If we reload our app locally, we will see that it will be working. JS test, let's say at mail.com. Let's do this, success. And by the way, if we come back to our MySQL database users, you see we've got JS test at mail.com. So we sent from the local version of our code the registration to the distant server. So now it's ready, and I can go back here, and I see that I have 3 files that changed. So those ones, including the 2 new ones, and reorganization in static folder. And we will commit that push. That's it, and it will be pushed to Railway, so it's initializing. It will be deployed in a moment. It has been deployed, as you can see, it's green. So if I just click on this link, and now, as I told you earlier, I'm just going to reload it. Deployed reorg at gmail.com to just try it. Submitted successfully. Let's come back there. Let's check in the database. And we've got it. Deploy reorg at gmail.com. So everything is being deployed. If I look at the structure of my project now in GitHub, I can see that I've got my static folder with my script.js and styles.css. I will leave you here with the project as it is. I think it's enough for today, but I will keep on recording this video, and I will link to the next video at the end of this one. In the next video, what I'm going to do is create a very simple admin page so that we can easily see the submissions without going into the database, into the table via Railway. Just have a /admin page with some basic password access, so that we can have a look at the registrations that we got. But that's it for today. If you have any questions regarding this tutorial, leave them in the comments below, and I will do my best to answer them as quickly as possible. Thank you very much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you like this type of tutorials.